My name is Hannah Waters, and I am from Colorado, but I'm coming from Texas. I live in Texas at the moment, and I received 4 concussions between my late teen years and my early 20s. The first 2 concussions were in high school. I played a lot of sports, and so I sustained 1 concussion my junior year in basketball, and then another concussion my senior year in basketball. Concussions weren't even really taken seriously. It was like you kind of got the sideline testing, and then honestly I think I was made to play after at least one of them. I was a first-generation college student. I got into a really good college on a full-ride scholarship. So I was just really driven and determined to live out my dreams and to make something happen for myself in my life. And it was actually on the last day of classes in 2012, just a week before we actually walked the stage. I tripped and I fell and I hit the front of my face on a parking block. And I actually don't really have any memory of that. I remember getting home, I had a friend with me, and starting to feel symptomatic in the night. And then in the morning, I realized I definitely concussed myself. But it took me until I walked the stage to really be able to leave my room because I was so sick and in so much pain. And after that is when I started to notice changes, emotional changes. I started to really experience what I would describe as depression, anxiety, sort of irritability, and then weird things started happening with my head. It wasn't every day, but it was getting more and more common to have a headache. At one point they thought I had Bell's palsy, and then it was, no, it's not Bell's palsy, it's occipital neuralgia, and no one really knew what was going on with my head. I didn't know what was going on with my head. After I had graduated college, I had a degree in fine arts, and I was wanting to go to a very specific kind of drawing school called an atelier. 2 weeks before I was going to actually move to Minnesota to start this program at the atelier, I fainted and I fell backwards on a wooden deck, hit my head really hard, and I was unconscious for about 30 seconds. And I just came to, and he was holding my head in his hands, and I was like, why am I on the ground? And he was like, you just fainted and fell backwards and you hit your head really hard, and I was about to call the ambulance because you weren't waking up. I couldn't believe him because it seemed so radical that had happened, and I wasn't having any symptoms. I wasn't like, wow, my head really hurts, you know. But the next day I got up and I tried to go to work, and my boss just found me essentially staring into the distance, not able to really function. And he was like, you have to go get a CT scan or something happened. And then it really descended in the next couple of weeks. I developed severe chronic headaches and migraines every single day that I would really never get a break from. My depression got more severe anxiety, rage and anger that I couldn't control. I started experiencing really severe suicidal thoughts. And so I was trying to go to school. I wasn't performing well. Why my drawings weren't up to the standard that I thought that I was at prior. I started seeking treatment for what I thought was mental health issues. It was my concussions. I'd had a lot of head trauma. And so I sought out a neurologist, and I got an MRI, and I got a sleep study and all of this stuff. And I was really forthcoming about, I've had some pretty severe head trauma. Is this what's causing all of this? And they just looked at me and they said, there isn't any way that this is related to your concussions, even though the decline happened so rapidly after my 4th concussion. I was immediately heavily medicated for migraines, and I was put on antipsychotics and SNRIs, and essentially just drugged for the next 5 years and put through really intensive mental health treatment. I was diagnosed with a personality disorder, which didn't ever feel right, but you get told that you're wrong and crazy enough that you just start to believe the professionals around you. And I was still having to hold down a job this whole time, and that was almost impossible. You start to lose a lot of faith in yourself and in your own intuition and in the little voice inside that says, I still feel like this is related to your concussions. This wouldn't have happened if you hadn't hit your head. Last year in 2020, I had been dealing with PCS for about 10 years. And it was on Thanksgiving in 2020. I was pretty much at the end of my rope. I was contemplating ending my life. I decided to just give it one more look. I just Googled headaches years after concussions, essentially. There it was, post-concussion syndrome. It was a list of everything I had ever experienced in those 10 years, all in one place. I found Cognitive FX. It was the second listing, a treatment center for post-concussion syndrome. That's where my life started to change. It's only looking back now, or once I had my consultation with CFX, that I had this like new lens all of a sudden to look back on 10 years of life. And it was amazing. I was really happy. I knew in my heart, I was like, finally, this is it. I know that this is it. It's hard to look back on the past and see where I had zero compassion for myself. And once I figured out, oh wow, this is all connected to my head injuries, I had a lot more compassion for myself. That girl was trying as hard as she could to just make it through every day, fighting something that was totally invisible. I was so pumped to be here because it felt like a miracle that I had found it. I was so ready to experience what they have created here at Cognitive FX. I was just overjoyed to begin working with the therapists because so many of them, or many of them, shared with me that they were patients here first. I was impressed by the scan and what it picked up in relation to what I had been experiencing. I finally learned that I had significant visual issues, and that was contributing heavily to my headaches and to the reason why I haven't been able to make art in so long, and why driving is so terrible. And so the technology really impressed me. The attitude and the care of all of the providers. They understand, they get it, they validate you. It's really validating to be here and be understood by doctors and therapists. And you don't have to do any explaining. You don't have to be like, well, I know this sounds weird. They're like, no, that's totally normal for this. There were days that were really hard. My hardest day was Wednesday. And after my morning session, I didn't know how I was going to get through the rest of the day. I was so tired and I was symptomatic. But the amazing thing about CFX is that they've made this place to totally eliminate any worries and anxieties about, getting water and going to the bathroom and having your meals provided and not having to remember your schedule. Your therapists pick you up and they drop you off. And so it's like the most anxiety-free place possible to do this kind of work. And that made a huge difference for me. And after lunch, I started to feel a little pickup in energy and a little tuned down in symptoms, just a little bit, just enough for me to say, I can push through this afternoon and I can do it. And Thursday, I had more energy. Just all of a sudden in the morning, I was feeling excited and really up about everything. And over the lunch break on Thursday, I experienced my first about 20-minute period of no headache, ever. And I just sat outside and I cried because I didn't know what I was feeling. It was the strangest feeling to not feel a headache. But feeling that, I was like, wow, I can't believe it. 4 days in, there's a little glimpse of hope. On Friday, when I got my final scan, I was blown away. The results were amazing. I had moved the needle like almost a full point down on the severity scale. And my biomarkers looked so much better. They were all in the normal range. There was so much less chaos going on in the different tests. And I just cried with everyone. I was so overjoyed and excited and so happy that I had made this decision for myself. Best decision I had ever made for myself. And then yesterday, Monday, I had another full day in Salt Lake. And besides getting really sleepy at one moment after I had been kind of exerting myself, I got all of this energy. And then I realized that I hadn't really had a headache all day. Maybe one or two, maybe at most all day, but a zero for a lot of it. And I was so happy and I was so excited to be present and I was so thrilled to be able to participate in this portion of life in this day. There's no words really for that experience. It's a day, and I know that it's not going to be every day yet, but just a day like that where I could do what I wanted and I could have the conversations I wanted and I could keep going, and I felt like I could keep going even past when I got home. Wow, there's really no words for that. It felt like a miracle. Personally, I've seen changes so far that make me extremely emotional, finally, like with joy. I used the word bliss the other day. I was experiencing bliss, and I would never have used the word bliss. And so I know that it's different for everybody, but I know that healing is possible for everyone here. There's always hope. It may take time to find your answers. It took me 10 years to find my answers. And it is always worth it to take that time to continue questioning, continue believing in yourself and your intuition. You know you better than anyone else, better than doctors, better than professionals. You know what you're going through better than anyone, and believe that, because it's so easy for that to be taken away from you by the opinions of others. Consider yourself as the number one authority on what you're going through, because you are, and don't allow anyone to take that from you. And anytime I would watch a patient testimonial, every single time they brought me to tears, because I was like, that's me, and that's gonna happen to me. I'm gonna get healed too. And it might look different than that person, but it's gonna happen for me because I believe in what they're doing there. It was the best investment I could have ever made for myself. The people around me are already seeing that, which is really exciting. That's great for them, but what matters is me. What matters is you. If you're dealing with the aftermath of head injury, this is the number one place in the world to be. It's worth the wait. It's going to be worth your time. It's going to be worth getting through every day, even though they're really hard. I want to continue helping support people that are going through what I went through. And then I want to, as my eyes get better, to get back into making artwork, which is where I started, and that's what my degree is in, and where I had to kind of give up on that. I think I'm just ready to live again. Cognitive effects will get you there.